What crime cuts deeper than betrayal itself? And what happens when the war is not fought between nations but within them? For centuries, the word traitor has carried a weight heavier than chains. It is a stain that no grave can hide. From the famous Oliver Cromwell's rebellion to the gunpowder plot by Guy Fawkes, treason has always been Britain's darkest fear, and it did not leave Britain alone even in World War II. During the war, Britain was not only fighting on distant fronts, but it was also facing a battle within with its own kind. It was a battle of secrets, propaganda, and men who spoke not for Britain but against it. These men were few in number, but their crimes shook the entire nation. And when the war ended, their reckoning came. This is the story of men, condemned by betrayal, who met their end not as heroes, but as warnings. In 1939, as war engulfed Europe, Britain quickly realized that it not only had to face foreign enemies, but also enemies from within. Radios whispered and newspapers warned of secret spies in every street. Panic spread all over. No one knew whom to trust. Fear spread not only among the public, but also within the government. Parliament came into action quickly. The Treachery Act of 1940 was passed, a blunt weapon for a silent war. Any person helping the enemy, spreading propaganda or revealing secrets would face death as a punishment. The threat of betrayal was looming, but British defences against it were unprepared. The intelligence service known as MI5 was disorganised and understaffed. While it was focusing on foreign invasions, it remained unaware of the fact that the greater threat was lying within them, among British citizens, politicians, aristocrats, and even some soldiers who swore to the oath but then turned their backs. Among them, the most prominent was Captain Archibald Maule Ramsay, an acclaimed military officer and member of Parliament who did not shy from expressing his strong anti-Semitic views. He was an admirer of Nazi ideology. In May 1939, he founded the Right Club, a secretive group sympathetic to Nazi Germany and anti-Jewish organizations. The purpose of this group was to purge Britain of Jewish influence and promote friendship with Nazi Germany. Ramsay and his allies would meet in secret rooms and offices, exchanging lists of names whom they believed would help them in their purpose. For Ramsay, loyalty to king and country had been replaced by loyalty to an idea that was poisoned by hate and paranoia. But Ramsay was not a single voice. Across Britain's upper class, whispers of sympathy for fascism spread like smoke. Admiral Sir Barry Domvile, once Director of Naval Intelligence, openly expressed support for Germany's Adolf Hitler, as well as pro-Nazi and anti-Semitic sentiments. He also founded the Anglo-German Fellowship, urging friendship with the Reich, even as Hitler's armies marched across Europe. General J.F.C. Fuller, one of Britain's most brilliant military theorists, openly praised Hitler's leadership and attended Nazi rallies as an honored guest. Even men like Lord Tavistock, heir to the Duke of Bedford, voiced similar sentiments, calling for peace with Germany. They were not spies in the shadows, but figures of stature. Aristocrats, officers, and politicians who believed that compromise with Hitler was not betrayal, it was wisdom. Together, they wanted to bring revolution, topple the government, and form a puppet regime. In May 1940, Defense Regulation 18B was introduced, which allowed the internment of people suspected of treachery and Nazi sympathizers across the country. Ramsay was also arrested under this regulation, along with other supporters of Nazi ideology. Another prominent name in the list of traitors of World War II was William Joyce, who called himself Lord Haw-Haw. Joyce was a broadcaster of Nazi propaganda. Once he was a British fascist, marching under the banners of Oswald Mosley's movement. But at the outset of the war, he fled to Germany and became a Nazi German. He was the voice of Nazi ideology, and his mission was to spread fear among the people. Night after night, his broadcast began with the same chilling phrase, "Germany calling." He was mocked for his accent, but his words carried a quiet menace. After the war, he was convicted of high treason and sentenced to death. On January 3, 1946, he was hanged in Wandsworth Prison, making him the last person to be executed for treason in Britain. But he was not alone. Another Englishman was also involved in a deadly bargain. His name was John Amery, the son of a British cabinet minister. He was a man of the establishment by birth, but he despised his own nation's democracy. He became a strong supporter of fascist ideology and actively collaborated with German authorities. He made radio speeches urging Britain to abandon the war, but this was not it. He proposed a chilling idea of forming a British Legion of St. George, a unit of British prisoners of war who would fight alongside Nazi Germany against the Soviet Union. He did not succeed in his mission, but his treachery was impossible to ignore. 7 months after the war, he pleaded guilty to 8 counts of high treason, for which he was sentenced to death. Both Joyce and Amery met horrible ends, but none of them ended in a more pitiful position than Theodore William John Church. Church was a young British soldier of Swiss-Italian descent. He was serving in North Africa when he was captured by Axis forces, but instead of resisting, he switched sides. He became an informer for the Germans and Italian agents. He used to disguise himself as a prisoner of war to gain the trust of Allied prisoners and then leak their secrets to the enemy. When the war ended, Church was captured, tried, and condemned. He was arrested in Rome, tried by court-martial at the Duke of York's headquarters in London, and was hanged on January 4, 1946, at HM Prison Pentonville. He was the last person to be executed in Britain for an offence other than murder. Another British Army officer convicted of treachery was Norman Bales Stewart, who spied for the Germans and also broadcasted Nazi propaganda openly. He was later arrested for his crimes against the nation. Thomas Haller Cooper is another forgotten name in the list of treachery. Once a London factory worker, he volunteered for the Waffen-SS, serving under the Nazi banner and fighting against the Allies. After the war, he was tried for high treason and sentenced to hang. But then the life sentence was changed to life imprisonment, and then he was released in January 1953 and reportedly moved to Japan. Treachery of all these traitors was undeniable, but there was one described as the worst traitor of the war. Harold Cole, a petty thief, a con man, and the most cold-blooded British traitor of the war. At first, he was a loyal man, helping Allied soldiers escape through occupied territory, but later greed changed everything. Cole switched sides. In December 1941, he became a double agent for the Germans and betrayed to the Gestapo 150 escape line workers and members of the French resistance, of whom 50 were executed or died in German concentration camps. In 1946, French police cornered him in a cafe. He tried to resist with a gun and was shot dead before he could be arrested. Unlike Joyce and Amery, he met his end without a trial. After World War II, Britain stood victorious, but its victory was overshadowed by the bitter truth of betrayal by its own people. The trials and executions that followed the war left scars that time struggles to heal. The bombs had stopped, but the echoes of betrayal still lingered. As several years passed, the echoes of betrayal faded, and these traitors were forgotten, but not completely. Their names remain buried in dusty files and fading headlines, a haunting reminder of the moment when Britain's greatest enemy was of its own kind. If this story moved you a bit, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.